can be as good as Steph Curry in the NBA?
Heck no. He's going to be better than Steph Curry in the NBA.
Lonzo Ball will travel out to L.A. He'll have that procedure here in the next couple days. It's a partial tear of his left meniscus. And so the team's saying the timeline is 6 to 8 weeks. It could be shorter.
The NBA says we got to change his shot.
Wrong.
I don't think he'll ever be the same based off of what we're seeing and hearing and reading about. I've heard that it's even hard for him to get up from the sitting position.
Please tell me who your sources are. Come on, man. Come on, man. You got to stop yapping.
That video that Lonzo Ball made towards me will live in infamy until he's able to get back on the court and play.
When talking about the most hyped prospects since LeBron in 2003, you might come up with names like Zion Williamson, Victor Wembanyama, AD, and maybe even Andrew Wiggins. All prospects that had shown flashes of greatness in college or in international play. All of them had immense potential and were compared to some of the best players in league history. The NBA world had been amazed of what these players could turn into and had fallen in love with their potential of their abilities. For months and even for some years, analysts, players, and NBA fans had been discussing these prospects and what generational impact they could have on the NBA immediately. It is safe to say that they had all-time hype surrounding their name. However, one prospect, in my opinion, had generated a storm of public hype and national attention that we will never see again. That player is Lonzo Ball. With Lonzo Ball hopefully being cleared to play basketball again after 2.5 years, I think it would be great to remind everyone just how big his hype storm was. When comparing him to other prospects like Wemby or Zion, I'm not talking about their abilities or their potential as a player. I'm strictly just talking about the hype and national attention, how big their storylines were, and how much pressure was on Lonzo heading into the league. It is unfortunate to think that Lonzo's career has never really panned out due to injuries and a slow start to his career. I think it would be wise to reminisce on the hype Lonzo had heading into the league and to remind everyone how massive his movement truly was. And as we move further and further away from his draft class, more people seem to forget how big Lonzo Ball was back in the day. Before I start to explain myself with some of the reasons why I believe Lonzo was the most hyped prospect since LeBron, I want to give off some disclaimers and biases I have. First, I'm a Lakers fan, so there may be a little bias there. And second, I'm from SoCal, and I would assume that the discourse around Lonzo Ball here would be much bigger than any other place in the entire world. However, besides those biases, I think there's some really good and valid points to explain why he was the most hyped prospect since LeBron. But before we get to that, make sure to click subscribe and leave a like on this video. The first reason why Lonzo Ball was the most hyped prospect is because his entire life had been leading up to the NBA like a movie. His storyline into the NBA was something that was perfect to be pushed out. Lonzo Ball and the Ball brothers spent their entire lives training and preparing for the NBA. To add to the storyline, they were already in the entertainment capital of the United States, in LA. So when the NBA had caught attention of Lonzo Ball and his brothers, it was easy to push them into mainstream narratives. On top of that, this type of hype was not without merit. Lonzo led the greatest high school basketball team of all time, going 35-0 and winning the state championship in the biggest state in the country at a public school. The storyline was perfectly set in place so that the NBA could just promote it. The idea of three brother prodigies coming out of LA dominating California high school basketball in a public school would be such a great movie, except it was a reality. Add on all the crazy highlights and insane moments throughout the entire season, it was very easy for the entire nation to believe in the hype. Second reason why Lonzo Ball's hype was bigger is because it started earlier and lasted longer than any other prospect. When comparing it to Zion or Wemby, for example, a year before the draft, their hype was surely there, but before that year, they were prevalent, but certainly not a massive national storyline. Compare that to Lonzo Ball, who was getting solid hype his senior year and carried that into UCLA. Again, containing that hype in LA in one of the biggest basketball programs in sports history. He went from leading the best high school team of all time in Chino Hills to being the man in UCLA later. Lonzo was a part of every single ESPN or SportsCenter talk show in one way or another for the majority of 2 years. It was a strong 2 years as well. You couldn't escape Lonzo and the Ball family when you wanted to talk about basketball. He, along with other prospects like Zion, Wemby, and AD, were propped up as the next big thing for the NBA, but Lonzo's hype lasted longer. The third reason why Lonzo had more hype than any other prospect was because we knew which team was going to draft him a year and a half in advance. Compared to other prospects like Wemby and Zion, there was speculation and dream scenarios on where each of them would go. For Zion, Knicks fans thought they were going to get him, and that would have been massive if it came to fruition, but there was no guarantee it was going to happen, and it didn't. The hype for Wemby reached unfathomable levels when the Spurs got the first overall pick. I, amongst others, hoped he would go to the Spurs, but it wasn't a lock until lottery night. That anticipation and mystery on where a player could end up prior to the draft can add to the hype for sure. However, when we already know where this player is going to go, it only adds to their hype. For example, look at Caleb Williams this year. He is already a generational talent, and the hype behind him is merited. However, the hype becoming the Bears' favorite became cemented halfway through the last season, making his hype train even larger than it already was. Now take Lonzo Ball, who grew up in SoCal, went to school in Chino Hills, had an amazing basketball career, and then dominated in UCLA. Which team would fit him best for hype purposes? Perfectly timed, the Lakers were one of the worst teams in the league for 2 seasons heading up to Lonzo's draft class. You take the most hype prospect since LeBron and add in the Lakers' notoriety and reputation of all-time greats, and you reach levels of hype only rivaled by LeBron. Since his senior year, it was destined that Lonzo would play for the Lakers. Everyone knew it then. The most prestigious organization in league history was the perfect location for Lonzo to be projected to. This still keeps him in Cali, more specifically LA, where it was a movie-like storyline yet again. He was played up to be the next Laker legend. His name would be in the rafters before he even got drafted. I remember this as a young Lakers fan, thinking Lonzo Ball would take up after Kobe. But what about player comps? You can't have an all-time hype prospect without some crazy comparisons. Zion to LeBron, Wiggins to Kobe, and Wemby to an alien. Lonzo had to have some all-time crazy player comp, right? Well, let's look at Lonzo. He's a pass-first point guard who is an amazing playmaker. He controls the pace of the game very well. He is also oversized as a point guard and is a great all-around game on offense and can be very good on defense. Now, which NBA legend is that? Magic Johnson was his NBA comparison, who was conveniently the president of basketball operations for the Lakers the entire time Lonzo Ball was rising. The comparisons were right there and were almost too perfect to be true. Everything was aligning for Lonzo to be an all-time great for the Lakers, and the hype around him as a prospect was reaching unparalleled levels. With all these points, that should be enough to at least pass AD and Wiggins hype, maybe even edge over Zion and Wemby hype, but there's no way to touch Bron hype. That would be ridiculous. Unless there is something I'm missing. Lastly, the biggest reason why Lonzo Ball was the most hyped prospect since LeBron was his last name. Not only did he lead the greatest high school team of all time, not only was he destined to join the Lakers and be compared to Magic, not only did his hype last a long time compared to other prospects, but it was largely orchestrated by his dad, LeVar Ball, and his company, Big Baller Brand. LeVar Ball was a big reason why all 3 of his sons, but specifically Lonzo Ball, was getting unparalleled national media attention. Whether that be a little reality TV show, multiple interviews and documentaries, or just articles written about the family, can all be because of LeVar Ball. He had such an unwavering confidence about himself and his family about their basketball abilities, and had such a bold personality, and the spotlight was natural for him. To add on to this, LeVar Ball, who had such a controversial but bold and passionate personality, was displayed everywhere for the better part of 2 years, only skyrocketing Lonzo's fame and the hype to something the league hasn't seen since LeBron James, and will never see again. He regularly went on sports talk shows and TV interviews spewing the hottest takes about himself and his sons, claiming he would beat MJ one-on-one in basketball. He said Lonzo would lead the 2016 Warriors to the same success or better if they swapped Lonzo and Curry. Not only was he just plain out ridiculous, but he was also funny, and he was made for TV. Him and the Ball family took over the sports world by storm for a solid 3 years.
My brand went up 12%.
His company, Big Baller Brand, was also a very successful company. I remember some of my schoolmates buying the merch and all the shoes. It was massive in the US and was probably bigger in California. The brand and marketing around it was centered around his 3 sons, and for Lonzo's hype train to have a whole shoe brand behind you before you even step foot on an NBA court was massive. Lonzo, LiAngelo, and LaMelo were the faces of this company as LeVar was in charge. Lonzo really felt like a true NBA superstar in every aspect before he even stepped into the league. From his talent and basketball ability to the city of LA propping him up to be the next Laker great for 2 years, and his father orchestrating everything and boldly claimed a lot of things about his son. Lonzo was a true basketball superstar. The hype story of Lonzo Ball was the culmination of perfect timing, great talent, and a movie-like storyline. Lonzo's hype had covered all bases. For Zion, he had the hype out of high school, carried that into Duke, and was propped as the next LeBron, but didn't have that hype longevity and the support of an entire city or state behind him. Even getting drafted by the Pelicans was a surprise. Wemby had, and still has, all the potential in the world, had the craziest NBA comparisons of all time, and had the storyline of him following up Spurs' dominance, but just for 5 months over the summer. And he had all of France behind him. There was also not much hype outside of him before the year he was drafted. The NBA will never see anything like the storm of Lonzo Ball and the Ball family again. It's moving like childhood storyline training to be in the NBA ever since birth alongside his brothers. Him living up to that hype, leading the greatest high school team of all time, then having a great year at UCLA. Being destined to be drafted by the Lakers in the same city he grew up in and built all his hype in. The prestigious pedigree of the Lakers drafting him and their history of all-time talent, not to mention his player comp being the president of basketball operations, clamoring you to be part of the organization for the past 2 years. The NBA being filled with so much all-time great point guard talent, just as you were becoming the most hyped prospect. Your hype lasting for a strong 2 years. Lastly, LeVar being the one that really pushed his sons to be recognized by everyone with a pair of eyes, and becoming one of the biggest sports icons in history. Nothing like this will ever be perfectly lined up ever again. Lonzo's hype cannot be replicated no matter how talented that prospect is. This might be a hot take to have, but to be honest, it really shouldn't be. Lonzo's hype heading into the NBA was something crazy, a landmark in all of sports history, and had such a massive impact on the NBA. As we move further and further away from seeing Lonzo on the court, it seems like we forget how much the NBA community once loved Lonzo. So I'm here to remind everyone. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe.